Hello. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon, or wherever you are in the world. Maybe it's your evening or your morning. Your episode of In the Code Garden, episode 2. We're going to be bringing style and substance to your GitHub Pages portfolio. I'm Renee Noble, the regional cloud advocate for the Australia, New Zealand, and just general APAC region. But reaching out to you all around the world. I love doing tech, community, and education, so I'm here on the stream to bring you all of that all together. And I'm also joined by the lovely Amanda Hogan, who is our guest co-host this month. Amanda came to a realization that she wanted more out of life while she was working at Microsoft. It's pretty cool here, but there's other things too. And she took up the opportunity to retrain as a teacher, which is awesome, like just amazing, and hasn't regretted it for a second. So since starting in teaching, she has taught all senior years in computing subjects. She also had the unique opportunity to gain insight into the art and science of teaching by assisting fabulous teachers in most faculties in schools to use technology in their classrooms too. She has had the opportunity to work with many different aspects of running the school as an IT consultant, from leadership to databases and website design. So she also gets to occasionally play with robots and make computer games, and watch students' eyes light up, when they do the same, which it's an amazing feeling to see those kids go, oh my God, I just created some technology. So definitely amazing.
Really
that's it. It's such a good thing. And she also has a side focus of helping teachers upskill so they can help other kids learn to code. So just like amplifying that around the world through ICT Educators of New South Wales and the Australian Computing Academy. She's also hoping to get around to writing a textbook, so that would just make it even awesomer and easier for other people to go out and teach things like Amanda does, because she's like my teacher aspiration, like life goals. And whenever I'm, working out how to teach my year 10 students that I am lucky enough to go out and teach a couple hours each week, I go, what would Amanda do? So it's just I love having her here on the show. So welcome back for episode 2, Amanda.
Thank you, Renee. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I forgot to ask you last week in our afternoon episode, what is your favorite plant?
Oh, okay. So this changes. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with orchids, but I currently have a flower spike on an orchid at home, and this is, I think, a life win.
Yeah, that's it. 100%. Like, I just keep killing orchids. I'm very sad. Just here, I'm touching the dead orchid. That is my first orchid I bought. It's very sad. It doesn't look so great now. So if you have any tips on keeping orchids, please put them in the chat. It was such a beautiful orchid. And yeah, we have someone saying in the comments that they're back. BSD guy. Oh yes, you're back from last week. Or maybe this morning. I don't think I saw you this morning, but very excited to have you here. Do let us know where you're joining us from in the chat. We love to say hello to you all around the world. It's very exciting for us to see everyone joining us. But yeah, let's talk about what we're going to be doing up next. So firstly, we're going to start with an episode 1 recap. So just telling you where we're starting off from today. If you weren't here last week, that's completely fine. You can just clone down either the template or the full portfolio we made last week. You too can be Renee Noble portfolio this week before you update it with your own name. But so you can come and learn the extra fun bits we're going to put in today. And then we're going to talk about how to make your portfolio stand out. Then we're going to give you some skills like how to make your portfolio have mobile-friendly responsive CSS, adding rich media by embedding a video, and using JavaScript to show off your work to its best ability with a carousel. And we're going to talk a little bit about colors and fonts to give that little flair to your site. So yeah, very excited about all of that. And yeah, I think that's going to really bring people's like portfolios up to like a whole new level. Amanda, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. I think the idea is we mentioned this last week that the portfolio is an element in the portfolio. So being able to showcase your design skills and a little bit of JavaScript is a really good way to capture someone's attention.
Yeah, they're like play the meta game. They don't even realize they're looking at your work. They probably maybe do, but play the meta game. So to do that, we're going to be working with a few different technologies this week. We have GitHub and GitHub Pages working for us. So we deployed our site on GitHub Pages last week. So go back and watch that if you missed it last week. But we'll be starting off and showing you what we have sitting there today. Then we're using github.dev for our IDE to code in today. You could also do this in Visual Studio Code. And then we'll be using the CodeSwing extension, which allows us to see our website as we build it without having to use a web browser. And then finally, Amanda and I will be using the Live Share extension, which allows us both to code on the same document at the same time within VS Code or github.dev. So super handy if you want to collaborate with anybody anywhere in the world. Really handy if you're like onboarding a new starter to your team, or if you are the new starter, you could make this as a recommendation to get started with if you are onboarding remotely in this, post current COVID era time, the pre-post virus. So let's have a look at what we're doing, what we did last week. Firstly, we started off with this template so we could get started and have something where we didn't have to code everything from scratch, and just had a little bit of room for a bio about you. We talked about how to write something nice about yourself and your goals. And then we had this one example spot, and we duplicated that to have several different projects on display there. So we had that, and then we turned it into something a bit more flashy that actually said things about us. We also played with the color schemes in our afternoon episode, so it's vibrant compared to our morning episode. It gets crazy here in the Australian afternoon, apparently. We go crazy with the colors. We've got different purples as well as the greens still hanging out, but I think it's got spirit, but probably not what we want to talk about in our colored section. We're probably going to talk about how this maybe isn't ideal. But yeah, and then we sent it live, and now we can actually take a look at that live site here. So this is our beautiful site, as you saw earlier, and we've got all our buttons. You can hover on them. You could click and go. Some of these are actually linked up to repos, but I don't remember which one. And then we have all of our, social media links as well that go to places. So super, like a really great starting place. And if you were like a, early university student or something, this would be like a really great portfolio, I think. So no stress if you're like, this is good. But if you want to learn more, it's probably why you've come to this episode. So I reckon we'll probably move on to that in a second. But let's talk about like what that should actually be. So what do you think actually makes a flair for portfolio, Amanda?
Yeah, so I think we need color. I think we like a color scheme represents our personality and gives it, make sure it looks like it's ours and not built from a template or however we got it to that point. We definitely want some colors, but we don't want to overwhelm with colors, and maybe not all the bright colors like purple and green on the same page. And we also want to give people some like rest for their eyes by having some white space. And I like that we're going to have some JavaScript, and it's going to show that we can hide away some of the things, but actually still allow people to choose to see them. And I'm a big fan of just keep the text simple. You can definitely muck around with the fonts and you can add color to the page, but let's keep the text easy to read, black.
Black on white or a light color.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing too crazy in the fonts either as well. So you don't have to squint, because if you're making your like recruiter squint, then that's points down there. I think they're just not going to absorb all that information about how cool your projects were. So what don't we want to see necessarily in a portfolio, Amanda?
Yeah, so I think that we don't want gratuitous movement. We don't want movement that happens without people clicking on something, or without, constantly rolling and distracting on the page. We don't want automatic sound. We don't want it to, you'd have to check what your sound level is before you open your web page, because that's the quickest way to send somebody running away. And there used to be this saying that you should check yourself in the mirror by spinning around quickly and removing the thing that grabs your attention first. And I think that's a little bit what we're trying to do with our website. We want to remove the thing that's a bit too blingy, a bit too distracting, and just keep it simple, but also, that balance between eye-catching and simple.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And like, you can wear all the bling you want, but I think when you're presenting ourselves in a professional way, they're probably like the giant, massive glitter necklace isn't the thing you're going to take to your job. So I think I love that spin around and take something off. So you spin around on your office chair, take a look at your site, and if something stands out to you, you go, maybe that's not for this setting then. So, and possibly, yeah, maybe that, scrolling marquee, it's like, needs to go back to the 90s. So sounds like a plan. Okie dokie. So we've got 3 different tech features today and a few other design tips coming up for you. We've got HTML, where we're going to show you how you can quickly embed a video, super easy. And then we've got CSS. We're going to make our design responsive, so make it suitable for mobile. Because you just want to be able to utilize everyone's time. If someone's going to check out your site on the train, you need to make it be awesome. And if you want to show someone an awesome thing that's on your portfolio while you're at a networking event, make it look good, because that, we're playing the meta game with our portfolio site. And finally, we're going to add a carousel using JavaScript. And yeah, that's going to be super exciting as a way to show off our skills, but also show off our other work with our carousel. So let's take a quick sneak preview at what we're going to be making. So back to here, and we've got, not this one. We've got a lot of GitHubs going on, team. Here we go. We've got this one going on here. So we've got this part staying mostly the same, except for the part where when we put the site on a mobile, it no longer does a weird thing. So what did it used to do? It didn't used to look great. So it used to do this, which isn't ideal for that email address there. And if we scroll down to the bottom here, it really is a no-go. As we said, we're having to squint.
Simple, readable.
Exactly. I don't think this text on this lively background is what we were going for. So we'll make that better with our responsive design. So we've also if we go down here, once again, not horrible. We can read stuff about our projects. So that's what we're going to be doing with our responsive design. We've got our carousel up here, which we can flick through to see our different pictures, which I think is really cute, but also really useful. And then we've got our video that's embedded in here. So easy to show off something more than just that screenshot, because we just had a screenshot of this last frame here, which is not as cool as having the whole video, and we can see that site in action.
Especially because this one didn't have an online view. You just had the GitHub pages. So being able to show somebody what it looks like is a good thing.
That's it. And maybe you have something that's not tech that you can show off. Maybe it's a conference talk, or who knows what you want to put in. So you could do anything there. So that's what we've got to work with there. So we're going to kick it off firstly with the responsive design. So Amanda, why do we want to have something responsive, I guess, is the best question.
Well, I think you said it already. I think we want people to not have to work too hard to look at our portfolio, whatever they're doing, whatever device they're on. If they have split their screen and they're working really hard in an Excel spreadsheet, trying to keep track of who's got what techniques down in order to give us a job, then being able to have our portfolio over to the side so that they can see it and it doesn't fold in on itself and look terrible. It's a really good thing. Yeah.
You make the best use of everybody's time. So yeah, let's kick it off. We've also got a request to do a commit and a pull request. So we'll squeeze that in.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, we love to commit and pull things. I
commit to too many things.
we both commit to so many things. Amanda's here. This isn't her real job. She's spent a whole day of teaching classes today. We won't worry. We've got you. We're bringing a GitHub pull and a commit coming here, right here in this little app extension we've got on the site, because we also have, for everyone's benefit, the GitHub extension. It makes it super easy if you're new to GitHub. So that's fantastic to use. But let's firstly kick up our code swing. So I'm doing Control-Shift-P, which opens up my palette, and I open code swing. And I'm opening our repo from last week. So you can see the name up here, which Sarah's already popped in the chat above. You can go and click on the portfolio afternoon, and you can also get to this page. So if you haven't started one from last week, you can go here and you can use the fork button to then get a copy of last week's one. But if you have your own from last week, potentially firstly, you should be committing your stuff so you don't lose it, and so it all gets deployed to GitHub pages. So let's do a quick one of these now. So in this, in using the GitHub extension, you can just go in here and do pull. So I'm just going to pull it. I'm not going to have anything because I've only committed from the browser last week here. And because I'm in github.dev, it's all connected up. But if you had multiple people, like Amanda committed something else on her own place over, her own computer, then it would know, then that would get included, and I could pull that down here. If I wanted to change something, so let's, for instance, maybe we'll just change the color back to something that is not this. So it goes back to the same as the other site from the morning. We could go to the CSS, and then I can find out where we made the thing be not bright purple. I'm just going to replace those, and then I'm going to commit it so everyone can have that as well. So we've got green, and now we're just going to find the other one, this purple one. Yeah. Okay, so now we can commit that as well. So I'm going to say change back to green, and then I can tick this box. I've got to firstly add this, and then I can tick the box. So the change back to green is my message. I can tick the box, and then it's committed. And because I'm in github.dev, it has pushed it to the repo as well, because I'm not on a local environment. If you are on VS Code, you'll also need to do a push or a sync to get that to go up so everybody else can have yours as well. But I hope that has been useful today to get you started. But also for today, I need to let Amanda actually join in on my screen. So let's get that link. I'm going to send it over to Amanda in our secret chat. And there we go. And Amanda will join me shortly in here. And we can start on our responsive design. So for the responsive design, we can just do this basically all in CSS. Actually, it's all CSS. You might want to have different layouts based on things. And like you could do it with JavaScript probably. But today, it's going to be less than 10 lines of CSS to make this into something I'm going to say completely acceptable to view on mobile, as we saw with the demo. So let's get started with that one. So let's get in my CSS up for you all. Okay, so let's start with a little demo of how easy it can be, really. So I'm going to go into my CSS file. Let's make everything a little bit bigger for everybody.
Yeah, you have 2 copies of your CSS file there.
Yeah, I don't want that. That's interesting. That's why I'm so confused. Here we go. Let's go down to the bottom of the file. And what we're really doing with adding reactive design is we're saying, hey, we're going to give you a new set of rules that's going to happen for a specific condition. And our condition for this is that we are looking out for the screen width. And if it's going to be like basically the maximum width that this applies to is 500 pixels. So we can say, you could even set ones that have like a minimum width. So maybe you want a specific design between 500 and 900 pixels for tablet, less than 500 pixels for mobile, and more than 1,000 pixels for a laptop. Then you could have a bunch of different rules that allow that. But we can get this to just happen here really easily. So I've got just a little demo here. I'm going to make the color of this yellow. So when the screen reaches 500 pixels, it's going to change what it looks like. It goes yellow. So it's as easy as that to add a rule about when does the responsive design kick in. And then we've just addressed the body in here. But you could do any rule, just like all of these different bits of CSS have all these different rules. We can put whatever we want inside of here. So we're actually not going to do this, like, as great as this is for your mobile view, like maybe we won't actually do that because of some of the stuff we said about the colors and not having really bright, distracting colors. So let's consider what we might actually want to change. Amanda, do you want to describe like what's wrong with this site at the moment?
Well, it's hurting me to look at it.
Yes. Good,
but we just want to, I think we're working with a grid layout, and I think what we want to do is divorce those two boxes and make it just roll underneath each other. And so we have to change our layout. Isn't that right?
Correct. Yeah, we do want to get out of the grid life that we set up for ourselves. So we're actually going to revert it back to its normal display mode, which is block, which means that things just go one after the other. Just imagine if you saw a bunch of pictures on a page, just one picture, all the way down the page. That's just because they're block elements and they just sit one after the other and just go to the next line. So if this would go underneath of the blurb, if the contact me went down, then we'd have enough space. So that sounds like, I think, what we should do. So I'm going to just add one line of code, and that's going to make things get a lot better in a second. So there we go. When it gets too narrow, the box drops down. We can also see a little bit of a problem here.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not great. So I think what we want to do is make sure that this green box, because it currently takes up like 33% of the screen or something, I believe, or like 20%. Let's go find out where the contact me box is. We've got this header, and then we've got the grid layout somewhere. Somewhere in here is how many percent that this is going to take up. That's the projects. Here we go. The header display. It says this part here is 70% and this part here is 30%. But when you get too small and you don't have a minimum width for this, then and the email address is too long, it gets a little bit funky. So let's find out where we can fix that. Yeah, Amanda, do you want to fix this for us?
Well, I was just putting a comment in, but yes.
Love it. Adding a minimum width. Yeah, so we don't get this thing where it's too small for our text.
Okay, so do you think we should go to 100? Should we just try some things out?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I do, just trying some stuff out. So this obviously is still too small for the email address.
Okay, so let's go to 130. That's looking a bit better. It rolls down to the next line. Let's go to 140.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Looking a lot better. And then
high five.
High five. High five. And then we get here, we drop it down, which is going great. So that's looking pretty good. It's a little bit odd because this text probably could just like go the full width of the screen, rather than like just kind of hanging out on the left slightly, but bigger than the green box. So we're probably going to want to fix that as well. So we're just going to pop down to the bottom, not the bottom of that, the bottom of here. And then add one more thing inside of this 500 pixel viewpoint. So I'm going to put in here. So we've currently styled the header main, but we can also style the blurb, which we're going to say it's going to take up 100%. So let's comment it out and see what happens. It gets narrow, it gets big, narrow, big. So now we have the full width. And I think it's looking a lot better already.
Yeah, except down the bottom.
Oh boy, okay. Except for this part, which is kind of the main part of the point of the portfolio. So let's fix that up as well. So this part, we have, as we saw, we had part of this. This part was like 70% and 30%, but the grid layout we selected down here is actually different. That was 50% and 50%. So it's actually going to need a bit of a different layout compared to the one above. So let's make it look at like we don't have the issue when we drag it across up here, but we do because these ones are very close together and already crossing over. So I'm actually going to say this one's going to be when you get to 700 pixels, we need to change what we're doing, make some choices about our styling life. So this one's really easy. We just have one thing we want to do, which is we want to make these two different elements, like we want to set all of this back to being block elements, which is a picture and this div that holds all of our information for our project. So if we do this and then we do the narrowing, it's already done. That's the whole thing. So if you've ever been like, oh, I don't know how to design for mobiles, these, like 10 lines of code, some of those are just brackets as well. So, you know, that's pretty chill. You can do responsive web design. And this is like already a lot better for mobile than it was. So pretty happy about our responsive website right there. People would be like, that's respectable. They wouldn't be like, oh my God, why are you making me look at this as this networking event, I reckon. So already tick one box. So shall we move on to talking about videos, Amanda?
Hooray. Okay. So the great thing about videos is that they're super easy to add. Most video sites, especially YouTube, which is the one we're going to be using today, other products do exist, they have a way to embed that video into your web page because they understand that lots of people do it. So we're going to be using a thing called an iframe. Do you need me to explain what an iframe is?
I reckon that would be very handy, Amanda. Yeah.
Okay. So an iframe is kind of like a portal in your web page that allows you to look through to another web page. So you can actually stick a web page into your web page. And so it's really handy for things like videos or for maps. And yeah, we can just have another thing that we didn't write inside the thing that we did write.
Yeah, super easy. I love how you could do that. I wonder if you can have web page inception, if you had a web page with a web page in it, with a web page in it.
I totally think you could.
I think so. I don't think there's anything stopping us. So how do we do this, Amanda?
Okay.
How do we bring it to life?
When we go to we'll find the video that we want to embed. Hopefully it's one of ours because it's our portfolio.
Yeah, probably.
And then we're going to go down underneath the video where you can thumbs up it and thumbs down it. Still very sad about the thumbs down existing. You can share this video. And so when you click on share, it gives you a whole lot of places you can share to, but one is an embed code. And the embed code is going to come up with a whole lot of HTML, and it's an iframe. If you look at the top of the tag, it says open tag iframe, and then a whole lot of stuff that you don't actually have to read very much. And we're going to grab that and we're going to stick it in HTML for our page.
Awesome.
And you can
You've
see
got
there's
some
also
options.
you can have it start at a particular timestamp and
show the controls if you're like you don't get to control it, but maybe you want to let them control it so they can stop the video or something.
Yeah, stop the video. Please let people stop the video.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got our code now, so let's jump back to we got to go to a different tab, which is this tab. We've done it.
Okay.
Cool. Any one of these GitHub tabs. Okay. So we want to replace the picture of the Wordle thing with the video of the Wordle thing because it's going to be way cooler. So let us find wherever that lives in this site.
It's line 100, and I think we also want to change the heading so that doesn't say language translation web app.
That's probably a really good thing to do for our portfolio as well.
Yeah, definitely get your headings right.
Wordle with Python. Okay, so goodbye image. You were nice, but we've got something better than now. We're just going to paste in our iframe, and now we can see already that there's a video in our site.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's giant. Looking not ideal underneath everything, but it's there, and that was easy. Yeah. So we can probably make it something a bit better easily as well.
If you look back at where you just pasted in that iframe, it has a width and a height. You could adjust that.
I think that's probably a very wise idea to make it the same width as our pictures, which was 300. And I think we're going to make that 400 for our, perfect for our height. So that's looking better already. The only thing is that it kind of doesn't line up with the rest of the stuff there.
We need some CSS.
We do need just a little bit of CSS. Exactly. So back to the CSS file. So yeah, we're using CodeSwing, which we didn't mention, has all these windows open, so we can just pop them up. But yes, what are you going to say, Amanda?
If we go and have a look at where the image styling is, which is, you found it.
Yeah.
Then it shows us that we've got a max width and a max height, which is what we'd put in manually. But actually this margin auto thing is what's going to help us out. So if I just put a comma and put all iframes and all images having that same style, look at that.
Now they're all styled alike. Margin auto is basically the center of the something world, the block code world, the block element world. I don't really know. CSS is a bit tricky, but we get there. And it looks really good now, I think. So
yeah.
I just zoom out a bit so we can appreciate our whole site. That's looking cool. We've already got a video and we've got a responsive design. Whee. So, and yeah, our video is responsive as well. It all just happens, which is really cool.
So magic.
So magic. Thanks, CSS and HTML. But on to the next thing now. We're going to insert some JavaScript in a second so we can keep them clicking because we want to keep people engaged with our site. So giving them options of things to click on and then be like, you want to keep them wanting more, let them look at more pictures to do with each thing. So that's what we're going to be doing with our carousel, which we demonstrated a little bit earlier. But yeah, what is JavaScript for? Why do we have this, Amanda?
Okay, so well, the reason that I use JavaScript, I don't use it for everything, but I do use it for manipulating things within the document object model. So knowing that I need to change something on my page and then getting it to do it when I click a button or when I type something, and just the simple stuff, know exactly as much JavaScript as you need in any moment in time is my motto. just the bits, just the edges. It makes things a little bit more glossy.
Yeah, I agree. And just, you just pick up a little bits and pieces as you need to go. And that's what I've done, in preparing for this episode, because I've never made a carousel before. So I looked at several different ways to make a carousel online. And then I picked the easiest one so we could do it here with plenty of time in our Code Garden episode today. But there's lots of things you can do with JavaScript because it's basically, it's just another language. So it runs scripts when you click on things. And when you type on things, you can set up, systems to make it happen every time you click on a particular button, or it can make a request to an API behind the scenes to get some data. Or in the July series of Code Garden, we used an API to get a random picture from the internet, maybe a random picture of a dog or something, which is fun. And then you can process that incoming data, or even manage cookies if you needed to have information stored in the browser about someone's browsing session. Maybe if you had a site with a shopping basket or something, you don't want everyone's shopping to be lost if they accidentally close the tab. So we can do a lot of stuff with JavaScript. But yeah, tell us more about the document object model and how our site is actually not just this page of crazy looking HTML. And
right. So this is it took me a bit to get my head around how the DOM works, but basically, your whole page is bounded by an HTML tag, and inside the HTML tag, we have a head tag and a body tag, and inside the body tag, we have a bunch of sections and articles, and inside the articles, we have Ps, and all of that forms this great big tree, a hierarchy of all the things that are on the page and what they're inside. And so that is what's called the document object model, and we need to be able to get around this document object model to be able to find the thing that we want to change, we want to make move, we want to change the image for, we want to change the text for. Any of those things, we need to know how to identify that one tag that we're looking at. And often we're going to use things like IDs.
Yeah, it's if you can get a hold of a part of the document, one of these objects in the DOM, then you can change all the properties about it. You can change all the CSS, you can change the text in a paragraph using JavaScript. So you could change it to, something that you can change an image to the URL that you downloaded from the internet or whatever you like. You can just change it all with JavaScript because it's just the language of the web, and it's the language that controls everything that's constructing your website, really.
Yeah.
So JavaScript is a scripting language, just like if we do a lot of Python in the Code Garden. It's just like Python. It's just it just happens to be the language that runs in the browser that lets us control all this stuff. So choose something that shows JavaScript, and that's what we're going to use. And you can set it, use it. Oh, yep.
Hot tip, don't call it Java. The short form is JS. I have heard students at high school calling it Java because they think that Java is short for JavaScript, but no, unrelated.
I've also heard it at students at uni, and it's just like, it's not a great way to show off your understanding of technology if you call it the wrong name. So it's JavaScript or JS. So yeah, but it's super handy, and there's a lot of jobs out there for you if you know JS or JavaScript. And it can be done. It's used all the time to set up triggers. So if you click on something, or if you're typing, so if you're ever filling up out in a form with your address, and it's automatically like completing your address, it's because it can ask an API for information and to populate that address field. So it can do all the things kind of like that, just from keystrokes, etc. And you can even run it in the console because it is just a coding language that, just like we can run Python in the console. Let's see if I can manage to open it correctly. Here we go. I've done it correctly. Oh boy, this thing has a lot of stuff. We're not going to do it in this one. It's got
No,
too many errors.
find a different one. Open coolers again.
Coolers. Okay, yeah, that's a lot of stuff going on.
It's too much stuff.
Too many errors. Okay, pretty colors. Okay, so but yeah, we can go. Let's make it bigger. You can just do things like console.log hello. Hello. If it helps when you spell,
it helps you spell
correctly.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have caught that.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, and there's things like, I can't remember the one that pops up the module, the error or whatever. I love that one. It's a good one. Remember what the confirm box? Maybe we do confirm.
It's not confirm.
Confirm is the one that has the tick box. Here we go. Now we've got this box here.
Oh yeah, or alert. Alert is the one I was thinking of.
So you can just make that box appear. So you can do everything.
It's amazing.
So fun.
That's such a wacky thing in the top bar though. I hate that.
In the top bar?
Yeah, so do an alert.
Oh yes. Okay. Alert. Hi. Alert. Leaving all the last letters off things today. In the top bar.
And colors.co says okay. So it will take sometimes if your web page is auto-generated, it will take this huge long thread of characters.
Didn't say blah says. Yeah, not ideal. But if we've set everything up correctly, hopefully we have a nice little alert. Not that you get a lot of alerts and confirms these days. They're all often modules, custom modules. But let's go see what we can do with some JavaScript. So we're going to be making our carousel, which is our thing with the buttons on the sides that we saw earlier. Which is going to be pretty fun. As soon as I get rid of this giant blob of text, we can start on that. So I did lie a bit earlier when I said it was all JavaScript, because obviously we need to add the buttons and we need to add the images, etc. So it's JavaScript and HTML and CSS to make it all work. But it's going to be worth it. It's going to be really cool. So we're going to start with the HTML because we do need the different pictures, of course, so that we can actually show different pictures. So let's go to where we want to replace our thing, which is our first project, which is the translation one here. So we've got one picture here currently, and that's just insufficient a number of pictures. We want more. So we're going to actually just put in a list of pictures to start off. So it's going to look really dodgy as we build this. I promise it's going to look bad, but it's going to turn out cool. And you're going to understand how it's going to come together. I promise it's all going to make sense. But it's going to take a hot minute to make it look okay. So I'm going to start by adding a list of pictures instead of one picture. So there was a bunch of different ways I could have done this. Obviously going to need to add the pictures, but we'll get to that in a minute. And you can obviously see that they are a list of pictures with the little dots hanging on there, because that's the color of the dots we decided here. We've got our little green dots, so we can see that it's obviously a list of pictures. So they're going to have to go at some point. Okay, so let's get the pictures, I think. A good starting point. But do you want to talk about why we might use a list, Amanda?
I was gonna put you on the spot again. Why an unordered list? People use unordered lists for all kinds of wacky things, including menus. Why that thing, do you think?
It's just really convenient, I think, to have a structure that has many things inside of one thing, and it's just a classic. Like, we could have done a grid layout, we could have done a flex box, which are like newer technologies, but this is like just a good old technology that we can just say, here's a bunch of items, and we have ways of, like, you know, iterating through things or saying this the first item or this the last item in a list of things. So it's just easy. I think that's why I chose it for today's episode. I'm like, you know what, Flexbox and Grid, they go a bit harder. We can just do this with a list. So why complicate it for my first time doing a carousel? Is it your first time doing a carousel?
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
I've copied and pasted a carousel in the past, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's how I started with this one. I did borrow it from the internet. Thank you, internet people, for making many carousels for me to look at. But yeah, then we can customize it to be our own little thing. So you could have a carousel that's being a full width page, like hero image, or you can have just a little one, which we're doing, and which is what I made ours out to be. So it just fits in the rest of our design. But yeah, let's grab our two other translation pictures. And then you're going to pop in here, and then our site will hopefully look better in just a minute. So those are our pictures. And then hopefully, there we go. Our site has come through. So we can see it looks great with our little dots next to our giant pictures. And I could say we're basically done there, right? It looks just terrific. But no, let's fix it up so it looks a little bit better.
Yeah, we need it to look slightly better than that.
Slightly better, not exemplary show of our skills as software developers currently. It was probably better before we did that, but we will fix that up. So we're going to add a little bit more stuff in around that firstly. So I'm going to actually put this all in a section. So where has it all gone? It's down here somewhere. Let's make this, just make it so we can actually see all of our stuff again. Okay, you can all be in a section here, and that's the end of our section. And then we're going to have the top of our section, which is going to, we're calling this whole section the slide wrapper. So this works based on a bunch of different containers, is how it all comes together basically. Each container can then have its own properties set, and then we can make it all work. So inside the slide wrapper, we also have the buttons. So we have our left and right arrows, or like previous and our next arrows. If you want to have multiple carousels on your page, which I did try out, so that's why I've called mine slide arrow next to and slide arrow previous to, because this is from residual from when I tried having two. You do need to have different IDs so you can identify what's being clicked. Because if we just had a bunch of classes that were all like left and right arrows, we could just be scrolling all of the pictures on the page at the same time, which might not be ideal by clicking the same button, because it wouldn't know which one had triggered it necessarily unless you did some clever JavaScript, which you can do, but easier to set it up like this for our basic introduction, I think. So now let's go take a look at our site. So we've got our three pictures, they're still there, and we've got some buttons which don't do anything. So are we done yet? Probably not.
No.
Amanda's like, do not hand this in for your school assignment. This is bad work. Do not stop here. C minus. Okay. So we've got all that, but now we probably want to style it so it looks like any carousel that we've ever seen in our life, rather than whatever this list and buttons are. So we've got a bunch of CSS to write. So I'm going to briefly talk through each bit of it, and we can see what it does as we add it on. So let's go to the bottom of our file. So firstly, we're going to set up the slide wrapper. So that was one of the container layers that we had on there. And we're basically setting up how the positioning works and the overflow. So if there's extra stuff in the container that doesn't fit in it, we don't want it to just all be shown on the end. Kind of like if you're doing an Excel thing and you want it just to overflow its box and be shown like splaying out into the next, box, you can allow that. But we don't want that, because we've got all these images hidden in here that we don't want to be able to see. if we don't fit them. So yeah, we can see already that we can't see much extra stuff. So that's good. We can't see a bunch of the things. So let's have it back here. Okay, there we go. So let's move on to the next part. So that's container number 1. Now we've got the actual slide container. And once again, it's kind of setting up how it all works. So we've set it into being a flex box arrangement. So, and then we'll get on to how each item is a part of the flex box in the next one, where we talk about the actual things inside of it. But now we've got this beautiful, you can kind of see how it's turning into a carousel. Now it's just a more manual draggy carousel at the moment. A weird little gallery. So we've even got this top one, if you want to see, because our things are slightly taller than we've allowed for currently. So it's one way to do a carousel. But it's all coming together. Do ask questions if you have them throughout. Because, yeah, we're doing a lot of code very quickly, but we can see how it's all coming together. And the overflow turns into a scroll, which we're going to kind of make that, you're not going to be able to see it, and we're going to do that scrolling with the buttons effectively, is what this actually is going to turn out to be. Thank you, Amanda, fixing up our indentation as we go. What a champion. Okay, let's talk about the slide. So the slide is each picture in there is what we're calling a slide. And we want them to take up 100% of the width and height of its parent, which is the slide container. We've got our dots still, so they're making it do some funny things as well. And then as we said, we're talking about the flex box. We've got one item, and we're saying it takes up 100%. So if you had some narrow pictures, it would mean that they fill up the screen. All of our pictures are the same width. Really helps with the carousel. Otherwise,
so helps.
Gets quite
do that
tricky.
Manually.
Yeah. No. So when I took the screenshots, I made sure they were all exactly the same size, which is very convenient. Otherwise, we have to start doing maths or things, and we don't need to do that when it's our first time doing a carousel. Okay. I don't know about the scroll bar anymore. Maybe we should get rid of it. What do you think, Amanda?
I think the 90s calls and want their scroll bar back, yes?
Yes, okie dokie. Let's make it go away. We've got a few different ways to get rid of the scroll bar for the different browsers. So we've got one for Firefox. We've also got one for IE 10 Plus. And then we've got one, WebKit, which will handle Google Chrome. It'll handle Edge. It'll handle the rest of your stuff. Safari, I guess, as well. So yeah, we've got, and now it's starting to look a lot better already.
Beautiful.
At least it just looks like a picture. We can't actually move between the things. It still has this dot, so that's going to have to go later in the CSS, but that's fine. We're getting there. We just need to make the buttons look a bit better though, because they're kind of, I'm going to call them our early 2000s buttons. They're very round. Yes, they're not of today. So look modern. Have a button that looks not like this because they're on top of each other.
We want them slightly less on top of each other, yeah.
Yeah, so we've made them beautiful, but we've made them together with the formatting. So we need to position them both individually, but they do look stylish, I think. And we've set the positioning so we can use absolute positioning, so we can say exactly like where they're going to go relative to where we are, basically. Okay, so let's position them first. And then we're going to add some like hopper stuff to the buttons. So we've got one for each of the arrows, all the indentation.
One of my favorite properties, border radius. It makes things just look just slick, like you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. Look, now we have these round buttons, because if we just get rid of the border radius, like it's now, that one's really hard to see because that side of the image is really white. But we have now a square button. Doesn't look as good. Just turn the border radius up and it's real.
That's beautiful.
Slick.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I love it. Okay, so let's finalize with our hover. So right now when we go on them, they like have the little clicky boy index finger, but let's make it have a hover as well, because everyone loves that, response, like dynamic feeling side. So now it goes white. And that's looking great. So that's all the CSS we need to make it all happen. So that's terrific. Okay, so now it's If only the stuff worked. That'd be nice.
Yeah, we could do with some actual JavaScript now.
Neat. Let's get some JavaScript. Okay, so I've noticed we also still have our green dot here, which I should have possibly gone away, but it's probably because I actually just said all green dot, every list in here. Didn't have a class in it. We just said every list, which we've now said that these are a list. So you could easily make that go away by giving a class to your actual list that you want to have green dots, and everything else doesn't have a green dot. That would be good. But here we are. Maybe let's go into here actually. We're going to say list style. Yes, none.
Yeah.
This one, no, these are the buttons. We're going to have to put it into one of these containers, whoever was the correct container. Let's just guess it's this one. Fingers crossed. Okay, some one of these, I promise. Well, I give up. So, but one of here, you can try them all at home. Work out which one, where this list is, or we could have, you know, a list that's inside a slide container. Let's do a fun CSS slide container, and then we can say li, no, yes, no, ul, and then we can put that in there, and it's going to say any list inside the slide container. No, apparently I don't know how to write CSS anymore. But something like that would make the green dot go away theoretically. So that's an exercise for the user, I guess, at this point. But yeah, okay, let's give up on the green dot. It's a feature, not a bug. I'm talking about JavaScript. Let's open the JavaScript file. Oh, we haven't made a JavaScript file, I guess. That's
we haven't.
What we need to do next. Okay, so while I make a JavaScript file called script.js, Amanda, do you want to talk about how we actually include JavaScript inside a HTML file, or how you can do it in any way?
So back in the day when I first learned web development, I put everything into my HTML, and so I had a script section at the bottom, and I had a style section at the top, and all my CSS was in the style section, and all my script was in the script section. But then I made my second page, and I had to do a whole lot of copying and pasting. So what we generally do is we link those things in so that they're in a separate file. So our style.css is already in a separate file, and it's useful if we can do the same for our JavaScript.
Yeah, and we put the JavaScript in at the bottom because we do want the whole page to load before we start assigning things like triggers that happen to specific buttons. Because if we try to build the page, and then if we try to set up the triggers before we built the page, because the page loads from top to bottom, then it's going to be like, I don't know about any like previous button. I can't assign something to it, so it's going to freak out. So we're going to put this at the bottom of the thing. So yeah, that's what we're going to set up like. Now we just need some JavaScript to actually have it import. So let's get that happening. I'm gonna put this button box down here.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a pretty chill time for our JavaScript actually. So we need to start by like getting a handle on things in the document. So we want to know about where the slide container is, because we need to be able to like get stuff out of there and reshape it and move things around in there. That's kind of how the thing works.
Yeah, but we're not going to change that that object, so that's why we can make it a const, right?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a constant rather than like a variable which we'd assign with let or var. What are we using these days?
We're using let.
Let. That's what I thought, and var is the old way. But
I just do what I'm told. I don't know why.
That's it. Yeah, I just wait till the computer tells me the incorrect way. You can always make something a constant, and it'll be like, "Have you considered using let? You seem to be changing that later, so that's not allowed." So the computers are here to help you, which is great. We also want to have a hold on the slide that's inside of the carousel, which is all the 3 pictures we put in all had the class slide2. So we've called it that. And we also want to have a handle on our 2 buttons, because that's where we're going to assign our triggers to. So we've got those. We're just getting those using the IDs that we've given them. So those ones are IDs. The query selector is selecting by the class. So we've got our 4 bits of information there.
Yeah.
And now we want to set up a trigger.
Yeah, so we need to listen.
We do need to listen. That's right.
Do need to listen.
Let us set up an event listener for next button to. So what we're saying is, hey, to this object in the DOM, add a listener. When it gets, and the listener is listening for a click. When a click happens, run this function, which we're about to write, which will go in here. So we're just using an inline function. And they look like this in JavaScript with this little arrow thing. And then you put the function in here. And you could write a separate function that lives outside of the scope of this button if you had it used in multiple different places. But we're just going to make it nice and simple. If you probably want to do that if you were making multiple carousels and set it up such that it took in the button and the scope that you're talking about and then makes it work for that instance. But we're just doing the one. So we're just going to set it up nice and easy. We're just going to start by getting the width of the slide because, as we said, and we saw with the little scroller, we just want to move the image left and right. That's how the carousel is going to work. So we just need to work out how much to move the picture over to the left or to the right, just like we would with the scrolling left and right, but with JavaScript and with the scroll bar hidden because it looks like the 90s, as we said, which we don't need for our 2022 portfolio. So we've got the width of the slide.
Yeah.
And then we do this, which we...
I like how you didn't just go, well, that's 300, so I'll just type the number 300 in here.
Yes, that's it. Yeah,
that
we did know it was 300, but what if later we go and change our HTML?
What if we change it?
CSS, we get a different picture like this would look great at 400, and then you start getting very strange looking carousels. So we could just look it up with JavaScript. Thank you, JavaScript. And then we can just add that slide width on to how far we've scrolled left or right when we go with the right button. And I'm going to add this one for fun. We saw we could log things in the console, and hopefully it will work in this afternoon session because it didn't want to work in this morning session. No. Logging what actually happens in the console out, because we can actually just see the numbers changing in the console because we just want to log how far it scrolled left and right. And we can just see how much, what those numbers are because it's actually just all constructed out of numbers and maths and the objects we have on hand. I'm going to do a quick copy and paste to get the second one in there because going the other way is instead of adding, we minus. But otherwise, it's exactly the same except for the previous button. So we've got all that ready to go. So let's do some clicking. Why doesn't it work? That's interesting. How does it run is the question. Is it all? Have we not saved it?
Is it going to have a problem with that semicolon?
Possibly. Let's do a double check.
Oh, we're not adding.
We're not adding. What happened? I must have clicked something and dragged it, and something very strange happened.
It's okay.
Trying to save the day, and now we can click our slide again. We're doing it.
Hooray!
I go left and right. It's great, and it's as easy as that. You didn't have to learn much JavaScript at all to make your little carousel, and it's looking pretty cool, I reckon. So yeah, awesome. So that's all our coding for today. But shall we go and talk about colors?
Has your dot gone away? I think the dot went away.
I don't know how the dot went away.
I'll tell you a secret. I've never been able to see the dot on my screen. Oh, there it is. It's down the bottom now.
On some of the slides.
Okay,
I think that's why we didn't notice it, and we didn't go and fix our CSS before the episode. But then I noticed it. I'm like, why is it still here?
Sure.
That's okay. We promised the dot can be removed, but because we're nearly at time, we're going to leave it there. But you can, as you saw, you can just use the list style none. Should get rid of it if you can find the right thing, the right class to put it on, or the right element. So I would recommend doing that before you let your portfolio go live. But let's talk about colors because we should also talk about those things before we let your portfolio go live. So tell us about your opinions on colors, Amanda.
Okay, I know that I am terrible at color. I don't come up with good color schemes by myself, which is why I steal them. So you should be empowered to steal them also. There are lots of websites that allow people to upload, people much more talented than me with color, to upload their colors into a color scheme, and you can then go and decide which one represents you as a human being. And I think that's always a really good thing, because you know that they're cohesive, that they work together, that they've been designed by designers. And Coolers is one of the places I go. Generally, I go with 3 colors per page rather than 5, like plus black and white. But you have a main color, you have your secondary color, and then you have your little pops of some other highlight color, and that's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're going something like a portfolio, you don't want too much going on. Maybe if you had a more elaborate like graphic design going on, this might be like for a logo potentially, this might be good. But yeah, I think 3 colors is good. And that's what I try to do when I design sites as well. Yeah, you 2 kind of neutralish, but like personalized colors and 1 flare color that you're like, oh, hello, they really want me to look at this orange thing. So that's really useful for that.
I have in the past tried to experiment with randomly generated color schemes, and they are awful. Go with the ones that are made by humans.
Yes. As much as I love all your generated graphics, I think choosing a couple of colors and putting them there has served you very well in all of those talks that I've seen. I don't like computers choose some things of your life for you. We can talk about like the importance of like bias in AI and things like that. That's very important to not like computers choose those things, but also colors, because the computer really doesn't care about colors.
Doesn't understand color. No,
really do care, especially people who may be looking at your resume, especially if you want to be some sort of front-end web developer. They probably want you to have at least an understanding of that humans care about what things look like. So yeah, on that topic, fonts also really a great way to introduce your personality. What do you reckon, Amanda?
Yeah, so I used to have to go and look up the Microsoft fonts and look up the Apple fonts and actually write them into the font family list. And now the internet has fonts. So I can just go to fonts.google.com and find some fonts that represent me as a person. And there's a really easy way. Renee's got it open there, where you can link.
Yes.
link that font directly into my HTML or import it into my CSS, and then I can use that font.
So we can use the import to put it inside our CSS, or if you want to include it as part of your HTML, you can use the link. And we actually already have one of those in our existing portfolio. So we'll jump back to the appropriate tab. Make this a little bit smaller so we can see everything. Okay, and we can see here, we've already got these Google fonts in here, and we've got one called Impra that we've used on this site. So it's really easy to just grab something from Google Fonts. It will like pre-format all the stuff you need to copy, and you just pop it in, just as easy it was to put our video in. The internet and the people who make the internet are just trying to make our lives easier so we can have better websites, because everyone's using websites all the time. So why not make them all be awesome?
Yeah.
So
that's super fun.
That's it. Yeah, I think that's all we have on our tips for making your flary but not too flary portfolio though, Amanda. Anything else to finish off?
No, I think have a bit of fun with it. It should represent you, and you should be able to catch somebody's attention. So yeah, have some fun.
Yeah, so someone wants to ask you a question about, it's like, oh, just like wants to give you a compliment, say, oh, I really liked your portfolio, just for like the vibe that it has, because it's just a great way to introduce yourself. You know, more important than a sturdy handshake or something in today's world, I reckon. So yeah, but I hope you all enjoyed this episode of In the Code Garden and this month of In the Code Garden as well. If you want to practice some stuff at home, we have this Cloud Skills Challenge available for you to do as a bunch of different modules to help you get started, whether it's with VS Code and installing the appropriate extensions, with GitHub and getting used to committing and pushing stuff up so you can use GitHub pages, and HTML, CSS, and JavaScript so you can excel and learn a lot more stuff about making a dynamic web app. You can give that a go. We also have a resume workshop, which you can follow through. It's also deployed on GitHub pages, so it might be a really nice counterpart to exist alongside your portfolio. So you can check out the workshop at that link. And then we've also got, if you're like, I just want to learn more JavaScript or more web development stuff, in the Code Garden in July, We did a whole series on getting started with web dev. So we've got HTML, CSS, and plenty of JavaScript. We used an API to get a cool image from one of the randomly generated image websites. So you can learn how to do something like that for your whatever your site you're building, whether it's your portfolio or something else. And if you need a little bit more help with GitHub, you can also check out my Getting Started workshop, which takes you through how to get set up from the start, commit, and give you all the concepts that you may be like, no one's ever explained that to me in a way that I understood before. Hopefully I can do that for you if you want to jump on that video. But yeah, you can find all these links and videos on my website, which is just here. And Sarah's put it in the chat for us in the back end, which is great. But yeah, that's all for this month. But you can watch us again next month because Amanda has agreed to come back for another episode next month. I guess she's addicted to our lovely fans.
We're a winning team.
We are. Everyone is. I love the Renee and Amanda show. It's very good. And we're going to bring you how to make a GitHub profile. Bring your GitHub profile into full bloom with our custom profile tips, because I didn't even know until 4 months ago that you could have a custom GitHub profile. But you can, and you can have all these widgets that show off your stats and all your contributions and stuff in different ways. So we're going to do that and show you how to set that up coming in October. Yeah, so very keen to have Amanda back next month again. But yeah, that's all we have for the Code Garden today. Let's all thank Amanda in the chat, just like Jack's doing. So she keeps agreeing to come back for us. But if you joined in this episode late, you can catch it on demand. Sarah has already popped out. Sarah's our lovely producer. We can see her popping things, links in the chat in the back end. So you can jump and watch this again. You could watch this morning's episode to see the crazy things that me and Amanda do early in the morning, or you can jump on and watch last fortnight's episodes as well. And if you have a chance, could you please do the survey? We really appreciate it. The code for today's survey is 17009. So yeah, that's all we have for today. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to Amanda for being part of this month's stream series. And we hope to see you next month in the Code Garden. Bye, everybody.